Welcome to True Wellness with Dr. D, the podcast where we explore what it takes to live with vitality, balance, and purpose. I am Dr. D, and each week I'll bring you powerful tools, inspiring stories, and expert insights to help you thrive in every area of your life. From health and wellness to mindset and navigating life's challenges, this podcast is your guide to creating a life of true well-being. Be sure to check the show notes and grab your free copy of the True Wellness Checklist so you can get started on your journey to true wellness right away. Now, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of True Wellness with Dr. D. How many of you out there have ever been stopped in your life from fulfilling on a hope or a dream or a purpose because you've got some sort of conversations going on with your head as it relates to yourself or your body? Well, those are the things that we are going to touch upon today, talking about those unconscious blocks, how we move them on out. And I've got none other than Deb Yager, who is a master at finding those blocks, removing those blocks, and creating change. So thanks for being with us here, Deb.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here and have this conversation.
Yeah, well, for those of you who are listening in, Deb is the co-founder of the Yager Training Company. She is a master trainer of NLP and a women's performance coach. Her journey, even of itself, is an inspiration. She's gone from adversity to transformation, and that really fuels her mission to empower leaders and individuals to reach their fullest potential. So we are honored to have you here today because don't we all need a little bit of that adversity to transformation in all of our lives? So let's talk about the blocks. Let's talk about the conversations in our head. Let's talk about, I know, a lot of my clients are women, and as women, we tend to carry a lot of this negative chatter. What can you tell us about this negative chatter? I call them little gremlin voices. They're like, pop in like the little evil one, not the cute little gizmo one, but the little evil one.
Yes. And I so agree. That's a perfect name for the gremlins. I think back in my entire life as being a female on this planet in this body. And I can remember so many times where I didn't go to the event, or I didn't go on the boat, or I didn't even show up for the call, or I didn't go to work that day and called in sick because I was doing the pattern of body shame.
Yeah.
And at a very young age, I struggled with a very distorted body image. And it was the underlying program that drove a lot of very unhealthy behavior. And even in 2021, which is not that long ago, I went to Peru and I did a transformational experience there. And Spirit told me, hey, you need to get those boobs out. You need to get those breast implants out. I mean, I had implants. I had them at the time for somewhere like, I think 17 years.
Wow.
And I did not want to get them out because they were an identity.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And I was afraid of what I would be without them. I was also afraid of what I would look like because then I had all this distorted ideology that, small boobs that were going to be saggy is not good enough. It would mean something about myself. My husband would reject me. It's so funny. I even thought my friends would reject me. Like they care about my breast size. I know that sounds so stupid. I even thought that I would make less money because I wouldn't be as attractive because being a beautiful woman, not that my attraction now is a way of making money. And I'll share how that's tied into the ideology from the past.
Sure.
But looking a certain way and the world that we live in as a female presupposes in some circles that you have more power.
Yes.
In some circles and some thinking. And so it was very scary for me. And I actually shoved it underneath the rug for many years. And I'm proud to say, the 17th of December last year, I went in for the operation and got them out. And I am so proud of myself. And it's been this huge ego transition.
Yes.
And I love my body and I fully embraced her and I love my little boobs. They're beautiful. But it was a transition period for me, even though that I'm in the personal growth and development space and I talk about body love and accepting yourself. It was this elephant in the room that I didn't want to talk about. And quite frankly, I've always wanted to do a body course where it teaches women how to love their body, but I wasn't in integrity with how I felt about my body. And so it's been this huge shift and everything's becoming so clear. And I think in society, it's that elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about because there's so much money being made on making women specifically feel less than, unworthy, and the fear of aging, the fear of not looking a specific way that marketers decide, the theme of the year of how you're supposed to look. And then it pushes all these things telling you that you are not enough if you don't fit into that model, which is the endless pursuit because none of us are the same. We're all beautiful.
Yes, and we're never gonna fit in some sort of specific model. So yeah, and it is. I think it's so pervasive in our society that it is like the elephant in the room. And yes, we do talk self-love, and it's like, oh, but wait a second, are we really truly loving ourselves exactly as we are? We have a program that we do. It's called Body Beautiful, and it is all about starting to peel away the layers of all of that gunkiness that has, come in from all of these outside influences. And then, I think our brains take those outside influences and then our brains create their own little gremlins. And now here we are off to the races.
Exactly. And it's a feedback loop of hell. And I'll be honest too. I did the Botox stuff. I never did the fillers. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with doing any of that. Like if that brings really what's underneath it. Yeah. And what is the reason why you want to look that way? And is it coming from a deep sense? For me, it was a deep sense of unworthiness and unwholeness. And so that's something that I've really been playing in that space and fully embracing all of myself as women too, as we're aging and we're changing, our face is changing, our bodies are changing, really embracing that different phase of the goddess. And that's really what I've been playing with is that you have the younger goddess, then you have the middle goddess, and then you have the next goddess, and then you have the next version of the goddess as we go all the way to the different goddesses that we can be in this lifetime and loving every part of that cycle. And, it's just been something that is really on my heart right now. And I really encourage women to look at these stories. Where do they come from? Mine came from childhood. I grew up in the era in the 80s where everybody was super skinny and they had big boobs and they were like Carmen Electra or Pamela Anderson, And now you look at it and it's like the big butts, tiny little waist that doesn't even exist in reality. These distorted humans. So, yeah.
And today, literally most of what we see is distortions, right? Even if someone's got a real, authentic Instagram post or whatever, it's like there's a filter on there.
Yeah. And then and another thing, the way that people are changing their face with aesthetics, whatever their model of the world is, right, is okay for them. And now humans are not even looking human, which is a fascinating thing too.
Right.
Right. So it's just interesting where we're going. And my heart goes out to young women that are growing up in this age of technology. And so it really goes back to how are we creating the story of what it means to be ourselves.
I love that.
Because when you go back to that and you fully embrace, and I'm speaking to my young woman self, when you fully embrace who you are fully and completely and love who you are and value thyself, and you go on the path of knowing thyself and know that you're not just a meat vehicle. This is an amazing avatar. We're gifted.
Sure. Yes.
And we're a spirit having this amazing experience, and we're so much more than that. And this journey, our body is that catalyst to be able to go experience things. So worshiping it as a temple of all of its quirks and its shapes and its sizes and its colors and all the different things. And I wish that that was installed into me as a young woman, because I was very confused as a young woman.
Sure.
And because I always hated my body, I started using drugs at a young age.
Yeah.
And I went down this very destructive path. And at 16, I started in the field of, I hustled my first guy when I was 16. And then I got into stripping. And I did that for 16 years before I hit rock bottom in all areas of life and almost died from an overdose quite a few times.
Wow.
And I wanted to change, but I didn't think that I was good enough. The only thing that I thought that I was valued by was the way that I looked, because of the program and because my body was survival.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's how I found this work. I found this work because I was looking for change, and I had no idea, what I was getting into. And I did a training, and I was able to take my power back and start to love myself for the very first time. I cut out relationships that are super abusive. The way that I would get out of relationship is them going to jail, to give you a context. And I was able to start embracing my full potential. And when I started on that path, that's when I started shifting the eating disorder and the body dysmorphia. But it took me 10 years. I mean, look at where I am now. I mean, it's been 12 years since then to fully embrace my body. And that's even with all the personal growth and development, because it's so insidious how much it's, from my perspective, been programmed into our culture.
Right.
That you're bombarded by it all the time.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And there is, right? There's always layers. Like I always tell people, sit down, embrace the ride, because the ride doesn't end. There's always a new layer. We're never going to get to that top where everything is absolutely perfect. The beauty is in discovering, like, there's always another place to grow, evolve, another level of ourselves for us to get in touch with and to transform.
That's another thing that I hear too from all of our friends and our colleagues in the field, as well as our graduates that come through our program. It's like, I wanted just to get this level. I'm like, that's not the work that we're here. The great work is that we're consistently working on ourselves. And I'm sharing this story now from a woman that's transformed some of it, still not all of it. I'm still working on it. We all are.
We're all works in progress.
I'm proud of myself for what I've done. However, I'm still on the path, and there's still layers, like you said, of transformation and different areas of growth. And that's the beauty of it, because it's the path of self-discovery.
Yeah. What do you think that pivotal moment was when almost like I'm going to say it, like the veil came off and you were like, oh my gosh, I see things completely different than I did just a moment ago? Like, which reality was I living in?
Which time?
when your transformational journey began?
Yeah. So when in 2011, I was in rock bottom. Like I said, that I was I was living as a sex worker and a stripper in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was in and out of the abusive relationships, and it had been, so many relationships back to back. I just remember looking in the mirror and realizing that I didn't know if I would be alive much longer if I didn't change, because people were dying around me. People were going to jail. And I actually, to be honest with you, I got arrested for the third time for solicitation of prostitution. And I sat in jail for 72 hours. And I remember looking around at every single woman in there as a caged animal and realizing if I didn't change my life, that would be my fate. And it took me a while before that experience to be able to find this work. But there was that spark in me that was like, I got to do something different.
Yeah.
I got to do something different. And so I started searching, and the only thing that I could control back then was my body. Like I said, it was a survival tool. And so I used to work out all the time. And I met this beautiful woman that she actually was substituting teaching in a Pilates studio. And I followed her around. I followed her around because she had this amazing light. I didn't know that she had been NLP trained.
Ah, there you go.
Yes. And so I ended up taking one of her classes at the studio that she created. And I ended up taking a teacher training, and we got into amazing conversation, and she told me I needed to go take these trainings. I basically dumped out my entire bucket on her, and she held space for me. And that's how I found this work. I, on a whim, showed up for a training that I didn't even know what I was getting into. And I was able to let the years and years drugs go by the wayside. And later on, I found my husband at the level 2 training. And then he said, if you ever wanted to change your life, you need to get out of this environment. So he helped me leave the environment of which I was living in. And that's really when the great change started. Yeah. And then a whole cycle of 12 years, because that was back in 2013, of getting out of my own way, then deciding I wanted to do this as a business. And then that was a whole nother spiritual process in itself, because business will test you in ways that you can't even possibly imagine.
Oh, it's right in front of you all the time. I can agree.
Yeah. So, but the thing is that kept me going is that because I had this huge awakening and I was able to let go of stuff so quickly, I knew that I was supposed to be doing this for a living. And we've been helping men and women since then, whether it be drug addiction or just wanting to rewire their story, or to really fully embrace who they are as a person and to fully embody love for themselves, or to be a better mom, or be an entrepreneur, or just stop that itty bitty shitty committee, as I call it, with the gremlins.
I love that. The itty bitty shitty committee.
Exactly.
That's it's like the entourage of little gremlins.
Yeah. And the thing with the women with our bodies, I feel this deep passion for that, because I feel like it's one of the major unseen programs that's causing women to create disease. Because as you know, self-devaluation is connected to autoimmune.
Yes. And we're looking at autoimmune diseases skyrocketing. And so if we start to investigate what's happening underneath, diet, nutrition, those things are all important, but we can't leave aside the ontological component, right? Like the who we're being, what the thoughts that we're having, what those things are, if we're really going to heal.
Yeah.
Part of those layers. So first of all, thank you for being really vulnerable with us and for sharing your story, because, I know that for sure there's so much baggage that comes around, sex and in our society and going to jail and drugs and all of that. And you're knowing that you could have come from that space of adversity, right? And completely turn things around. And what you do now is you change people's lives. It's this extraordinary gift. And, I've worked with you for a while, and I know just how powerful what you and Brandon do in your company, how amazing that truly is.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about that. When people start to say, okay, I recognize maybe there are some blockages, maybe there are some things that are happening that I need to shift and transform, where might they even begin?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Dr. D. I just wanted to remind you that you can get started on your true wellness journey. Go ahead and check the show notes and grab a link to the True Wellness Checklist. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Well, the first step is awareness, and you don't really know what you don't know. I look back at my younger self when I was struggling at rock bottom. I didn't even believe that if you had told me that I would have the life that I have now, I would have said you're effing crazy, because there's no way that I would be doing any. So I was already stuck in the prison of my own making. I couldn't see beyond that.
Okay.
So a lot of times when people are stuck, they are stuck and they can't even see beyond they don't even see the bars. There's this in this box. And so the first step is acknowledging yourself that you are aware that you're stuck. Yeah. Because that is a super, super amazing place to be, because most people don't even realize they're stuck.
Right.
The second step is figuring out what it is that's keeping you stuck. Right. So what is the story? Yeah. For me, I wasn't smart enough. why I got into sex work and stripping is because I didn't think that I was smart enough, good enough, or ever able to amount to anything. The only thing that I was worth was my body. And so, and this may not be extreme for some of the women on here, but they're still in the program and pattern as being a woman. Think about the lineage of years and years of women on this planet. So epigenetics, right? Or your family lineage.
Yes.
In the past, as a woman, to survive on this planet, looking a certain way would secure you a good marriage, money, family, all that stuff. And so that is in our DNA and our cellular level. That's insidious that we don't even think about. So having to look a certain way is almost ingrained into us.
Yeah.
Survival.
Yep.
And I even was talking to a woman the other day that I'm coaching, and in her culture, at the age of 41, she's beautiful, super beautiful. They were going around the table around Thanksgiving or Christmas, and they were shaming her, saying that she's an old maid and that she needed to get married. So she ended up getting into a relationship with a man that's not necessarily right for her. So, I mean, it's also not only internal, but there's also societal as well as familiar pressure to marry, and then also to look a certain way to then provide safety and security. And so maybe it's not the story of my situation, but maybe it's something that's unconscious. Like I even thought that my husband wouldn't want to be with me anymore. And he's a super evolved being.
Yes.
Right? When I have my boobies are a little saggy and they don't look the same. No, I think they're beautiful now. But at the time, that was a story.
Yeah.
And so what is the story, whether it be about your physical body, but maybe it's about who you are as a person?
Yes.
Because a lot of women, we carry this imposter syndrome, perfectionism, feeling unworthy, not feeling good enough to be included. We're afraid of being abandoned or not good enough to be part of a group.
Yes.
We're afraid of being left alone or ostracized, right? We're afraid of speaking our truth because then people won't like us, people pleasing. This all comes from the same pattern of unworthiness. It's just a distortion in a different way, right? So figuring out what that story is for you and figure out where it came from.
Yeah.
Really wonderful. Because none of them are true. These are lies that have been installed at a very young age that are playing out and creating a reality. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no. I agree with everything that you're saying. It's almost like, sometimes I explain it as, when we're at that younger age, we can't process and rationalize things the way that we can, as an adult. And so when we're in that sort of that perspective, that's what we get. And so when you're a child and these things are coming at you and you're trying to make sense of the world, right now, all of a sudden, that's the world that you're growing up in.
Exactly. And we talk about it, and I'm sure you've talked about it on this podcast and in your training courses, that you're like a little sponge running around 0 through 7.
Yes.
Right. So you're taking in all these suggestions from the unconscious, from your environment. And then you make these stories, and then it becomes an identity with all these stories, belief systems, and then habits and behaviors. All of that creates an identity of who you are when you're so much more than that. You are not your body. You are not your vocation. You are not your mind. You're not anything. You're not a mom. You're not even a woman. You can't even label the totality of what it means to be you, the essence of life and love and light. Right. And so we get fixated on these things that we think are real, but really they're programs that are limiting us from fully embodying self-love and truly, truly enjoying life, because all that stuff robs you of happiness and freedom.
Yeah, it's almost like we have to become nobody in order to truly discover who it is that we truly are. It's all those layers.
And good news is that we can let it go.
Yes.
We can let it go. We can let it go. And that's the cool thing. I mean, I was able to let go of years and years of drug addiction. I wasn't just using drugs. I was using a lot of drugs. I was using Xanax, Adderall, Oxycontins, Loratabs, smoking meth, and doing lots of alcohol, sometimes up to a fifth a day. And I had debilitating stories about myself. I had social anxiety. I was afraid to look people in the eye. I would have panic attacks when I would go to the grocery store and have to talk to somebody. I mean, I was really, really hurting in a trauma cycle, and I had really disempowering belief systems, and you can rewire those stories. That's not who we are. And I truly believe all the adversity, whether you've had a beautiful life or adverse life, all of the challenges and bumps along the road are your greatest gift, and they are the catalyst for you to be able to serve people at a deeper level. So, we can have that freedom, and we can fully embody love for ourselves.
Yeah. You've mentioned a couple times about like the work, and I know that you're referring to neuro-linguistic programming, right? What is, let's share for our listeners, what is neuro-linguistic programming? Like, what is it, some kind of computer technology?
That's what it sounds like.
That's exactly what it sounds like. I know it's not, but share with us a little bit more about what neuro-linguistic programming is, and really like what the power is, because it's a really powerful tool. I mean, we just sit here to consider how transformative it's been for you, but not just for you. I mean, all the clients that you work with, all the people that you've touched, and throughout all of the world where people are being touched from neuro-linguistic programming, we're seeing like these amazing transformational stories. So there's something there. What is that something?
Yeah. So neuro-linguistic programming. So neuro is the mind, right? Neurology of the mind. N, and then L is the language we use internally, but then also how does our body language, how we process information, as well as how we communicate to others, and then the programs that we run. Whether they be getting the result that we want or not getting the result you want. And so basically it's like having a user manual for your mind and your body, and how to reprogram your mind to then love your body and work with your body versus against your body. And so a perfect example, and we have many different processes within NLP plus quantum time technique, where we can take people back in the past and rewrite their stories and let go of negative emotions. With this body of work, it allows you to rewrite your story, but not just in the mind, like logically. I'm talking about rewiring it emotionally, physically at the cellular level. So you're embodying it and behaving in that new way. So for an example, we had a gal that came through the event, and she was in a pattern of attracting all the wrong men, kind of like me. We attract all the people that we are or have been in the past. And we started having conversation with her to ask her where the root cause was from this pattern. And she remembered back at 4 years old that her parents got divorced, and then her mom was in and out of very abusive relationships. And every time she would get into some sort of flow with a man, then there'd be a knockdown, drag out fight, and then the man would leave or the mom would leave. And so then she anchored into relationships with another man, that type of pattern. And so she kept having the pattern over and over again. And so with the work, we were able to go back in the past and rewrite that story, clear it out. And then the pattern stopped and changed. And now she's in a beautiful marriage, and she has beautiful kids. And it's just, it's like magic, right? And we've seen this also with people that have gained weight and then lost weight, and then gained weight and lost weight.
Yeah.
Go and ask some questions. Oh, wow. There was a time in the past where either they were bullied as a child, or even worse, sexually abused. And so the body then puts up weight to then protect them, or they're carrying around emotional weight. And then they go back, they regress, they let it go, and they rewrite the story mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And then the weight gain goes away, and their body goes back to homeostasis. And we have thousands of stories like this in all different walks of life for different things. And ultimately, to me, it's freedom. Because no matter what we have going on in our life right now that we feel like we don't like, or that we're not happy with, or an identity or a diagnosis, because people get told a lot, whether it be mental diagnosis or physical diagnosis or disease, we have the power to change it because our perception literally creates our reality. We know this with quantum physics, and it also creates our body. So it gives us power.
Which I think is extraordinary. It gives us power. And like you said before, it's freedom, right? Knowing that, okay, hold on. If I'm really dissatisfied with the way that something is, there is a way to actually create change in that thing and transform our lives. So it really does put us in the driver's seat of our life.
Yeah. And it's really incredible once you started getting into the lineage epigenetic stuff, where we've had people, where they, maybe their mother had the same thing. And now then it's become a belief system that it's, genetic or it's in their DNA. All the women in my family have had this X, Y, and Z. And then even the child starting to have that type of symptomology where the mother, she'll go back, clear it for the lineage. And then her child changes as well as her health changes. And it's fascinating. And this is nothing new, by the way. The ancient teachings, you go around the world and you talk to different, super intelligent, ancient indigenous people, they'll tell you that, yeah, you can heal your lineage. And it not only heals 8 generations to the future, it heals 8 generations to the past. And we have that ability with these tools.
Which is extraordinary. And I don't know if you know that there was a study that they did, because some of this sounds like, really, what, how, and like, where's the science? But there was a study that they did. It was a study. And in the study they had, and I may be getting some of these facts wrong, so don't quote me on all this specifically, but in the study, what they did was they exposed these rats to, I believe it was a certain smell. And then the smell was associated with a shock, right? And what they did was they then tested generations later. So, that rat's child and grandchild and great grandchild, and they already had those rats or mice exhibited that fear response just from the smell, even though they had never had that experience. So it's like those things that make you go, wow, now that's interesting.
Yeah. So it was 5 generations down, the pups, 5 generations.
Yeah.
And think about what we experience in our environment and shock and trauma, right? Yeah. Think about what we just experienced with, 2020 and all that stuff. So it's not that fascinating, or it's not that surprising. It is fascinating to me. And it's not that surprising that people are having massive symptomology. And of course, there's other things, which is environmental toxins and all the things that you talk about a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And emotional toxins are just as devastating to the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then think about it from, you can ask the question, but I just wanted to go down the whole rabbit hole about.
Oh, rabbit hole away. I like rabbit hole.
Think about too, at least if you have any sort of body dysmorphia or on the edge of eating disorder, right? So I had an eating disorder. I wasn't bulimic because I didn't throw up, but I would binge and purge through. I would overeat and binge for, sometimes a week, and then I wouldn't eat anything, and I would take stimulants to lose weight, and I would overwork out for a long period of time until I basically collapsed. And the thing that I did inside my mind, the parts, we work with a lot of different parts. We do IFS and we use other different modalities for parts integration. Parts are part of the psyche. It's all those gremlins that are in your head that are either critically gnawing at you or managing you, or having you then binge on something, or then the other one that comes in and shames you. And the other one was like, don't worry, you can have that cake. And this was like, no. So the little people inside your head, they're constantly fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And think about it if you're body shaming, so you have a body shaming part that then will beat yourself up about the way you look, that will drive you to do this behavior. But because a lot of times you're kicking your own butt inside, then you go for the food, right, to nourish yourself, to make yourself feel better, but then end up overeating and then starting to shame yourself again. So it's this vicious cycle. And all of these fixations and complexes are driving that behavior. And then also, whenever you're eating the food, if you're having negative thoughts, you're putting it into the food, which then is putting that negativity in your body. And so it's this feedback loop.
Sure.
And so all of that can stop too. And our relationship with food is a very interesting phenomenon too, because it can, for some people, at least it was for myself, it was like addiction.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you have to have food, right? It's an addiction, but we have to eat. It's not, it's not like alcohol or drugs where you can say, okay, can't live without food.
Exactly. And a lot of people's relationship, women specifically, when you start diving into the story, if somebody is overweight or they're not really happy with their health, it will show up in symptomology because their relationship with food is not necessarily healthy because it stems from this unworthiness or these parts that are the gremlins inside, so to speak.
Yeah. So let's say our listeners are kind of thinking right now, okay, I can hear these little voices. I definitely associated with some of these voices. And I think we all have our own voices, no matter how much unpeeling and unlayering we've done, there's still different voices that show up when they're ready to be heard, right? What do they do with those voices, right? What should they do when they're like, oh, I heard that voice?
Yeah. So I think all of the voices are actually trying to help you.
Yeah, I love that.
I think that all of them actually are part. So I believe that we come in and we're whole, but paradoxically at the same time, we have different archetypes that are playing inside of us. All of us have the mother inside of us. All of us have the warrior inside of us. All of us have the damsel in distress inside of us. All of us have the inner child inside of us. And all of us have this, controller inside of us. And all of them have a specific purpose that is really beautiful, that makes up your personality and who you are, that can then shift into different behaviors for different contexts to give you more flexibility.
Sure.
That make this whole version of yourself that's beautiful. But what happens is that, when you're in and out of trauma or you experience something that's not beautiful, they come in and they take on these roles because they're wounded. It's almost like they take on a burden and they take on these roles that are more extreme. And so that's where the anger warrior lashes out. But it has a good intention, right? All of our parts have a positive intention, or the controller becomes this control freak trying to hold everything together because if I don't hold on to it, then everything's going to fall apart. Right. Or the shamer comes in because it's trying to beat you up to be a better person. Yeah. Right. The inner critic or mom or dad that's always like, nah, right. It's trying to motivate you to be better. It just doesn't have the best training, or it's actually traumatized itself. This is the conundrum. And so, there's ways that we integrate that, and we talk to it, that we do in our live events where we can nourish those parts and help them let go of the trauma. And everybody can do this right now, which is figuring out what the voice is, where it's coming from, and have a conversation with it. Hey, what's going on? What's the purpose and the intention for your communication? Because it has an intention. It's trying to keep you safe or to help you or to serve you in a way. And if you start building rapport with those parts, they'll start opening up. And you can nourish. I truly believe that we're on this planet to become the guardian parent to our unconscious mind, which is all these different parts, and to love on ourselves and to baby ourselves. And I mean baby, and give us the nourishment that a baby wants and a young boy or a young woman needs when you were a child that you weren't able to get. And really parent yourself and all the parts and get really super curious about them. And when you come from a place of curiosity and love and patience, as if you were talking to a 3-year-old, you'll make amazing headway with knowing thyself. And then they'll start integrating, or they'll let go of the baggage and they'll be themselves. And they're a very amazing advocate for you as a person.
So get curious and then speak with those different parts of ourselves as if they were a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
With that
it's your little inner child. Yeah.
It's the magical formula.
Exactly.
It's the magical formula. When I like what you said too about, what's happening sort of culturally in our society and all of that influence. How do those influences, do you think, play out with the different parts that we experience?
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of the parts were birthed earlier on in my life, right? And then also later on when I had lots of trauma living into that world. And so you got to figure out when they were born. And then they have these identities, and then everything else that's coming in, they're going to behave in a certain way. And so if there's a part of you that believes that in order for you to have happiness and to be able to have a beautiful marriage, to be able to have sex, to be able to feel sexy, if there's all these different things that are, you have to have this, then any type of social media that's talking about like, oh, you have to wear this and you have to look this way, or, showing you the Kardashians or whatever it is, then that part is going to attack you if you're not that, and you're totally not that, because that's not you. So that's the game that you play unless you decide to stop playing the game. And this is easier said than done.
Sure. It's almost, I'm thinking as I'm hearing you speak, it's almost like we've at that unconscious level, we've got our own algorithm, like Facebook has their algorithm of what they're targeting. We've got our own little targeting patterns going on. It's not until we turn Facebook off, for example, that we're like, oh, wait a second, the world doesn't actually look that way. But then you're like, oh, but I want to see what's happening with my friends. And so it's, that resistance to even just turning it off for, fear of the unknown or fear of missing out,
and the fear of not belonging to, it's so tribal from my perspective, is that the fear of not belonging and being ostracized by whatever community group, whether it be online community or your circle, it overrides, the individualism that we have inside of us. Sure. And so for me, what has changed is that what is important to me is completely different than some of the things that were important to me in the past. So my number one value in my life is my health and my relationships, and the people in my life and my business and my purpose. But those are the big things that are important to me. And the relationships that I have with the people that I have don't care about the things that used to be the thing that I would compare myself to or looking a certain way. They love me for who I am inside.
Right.
And so it's a different, but I've spoken to women that are hanging out with people that actually do feed that old model.
Sure.
Or they have a relationship where a man is like, it's so funny. I've been talking to women about boobs all the time because of this. That their boyfriend actually said that they would leave them if they got their boobs out. Or their boyfriend told them to get the boobs in the first place. I mean, I had a boyfriend that told me to get the boobs, and it was all a mind game that played. I take responsibility for it. And that was the kind of relationships I was in. I put myself in situations that I objectified myself based upon the people that I was in relationships with. And so when I say stop playing that game, is finding what's truly important to you in your life. Because again, it is wonderful to look beautiful. We all want to be beautiful, but we all are beautiful. Paradoxically, we don't need to do anything else and just be ourselves.
Right.
And to value our health over beauty. And where did the ideology around what you believe is beautiful? Where did you get that? Because most likely it came from a room of corporate people that decided to then trickle down a fashion at one point in time to sell more crap to people. That creates trends that then changes it every year so that they can always create new things for people to buy, because nobody can ever fulfill that. So when you come to that perspective of like, holy crap, my entire model of the world of what I think is beautiful is based upon what brilliant marketers decided to say what's beautiful versus what I truly believe is beautiful, then it starts changing the paradigm for yourself.
Yeah, it takes it takes what's kind of happening behind us that we can't see. It moves it to the forefront. And now we can actually look at it. And now we have choice, right? Because when it's happening in the background, there's no choice. It's just on that. It's like automatic pilot.
Yeah. Yeah. And when did we decide that, when did we decide as a collective? It's so funny how people just start modeling a model and model a model and model a model. That's what we do as humans. We model things, right?
Yeah.
When do we decide that we want to do that as a society? And what's preventing us from creating a new model? And what's preventing you listening right now of creating your own way of being? Right. And then finding other people that are like that.
Yeah.
It's something I've been playing with my mind. It's not all the way configured yet, but I just was trying to.
I love it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Because it's just kind of like we're perpetuating what it is that we've already been born into. All the things that are happening around us, they're all part of the same thing. And it's all because it's like we can't see outside of where we are, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't you love this?
All the world's problems.
Don't you love this crazy matrix we live in? It's amazing.
The more you start to look at it, you're like, wow, that is an insane matrix. I mean, just think about, we are living in some interesting times with interesting things happening out in the world right now. So
we are, and we have a choice to participate or create our own matrix. And that's really what I'm working on, is I'm creating a new matrix around people that I love to be around. And we can have all the things that we desire, and we can have the health, we can have the wealth, we can have the relationships, we can have the beautiful experiences, and we can change anything that we want. Should we choose to take our power back and decide this doesn't work for me anymore?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that does take some courage, right? It always takes courage to be like, okay, this isn't working. I've got to change this. And we've got to look at ourselves, right? We've got to look at ourselves and be like, okay, I think the word that you used earlier that is worth reiterating is that word responsibility, right? It is that just being personally responsible. We're so used to sometimes playing the victim and pushing things off to all these other things. But when we start to step into our own personal responsibility, we also step into our power.
Yeah. And letting go. You were harping on me. You didn't harp on me, but you hold me accountable to the Botox. And look, I don't have Botox anymore.
Yeah.
My eyebrows doing the traveling thing, but it just makes me look very studious. Yeah. So Dr. Danielle was telling me that Botox is not necessarily good for me, and I didn't want to listen to her. And I finally decided to stop doing that in October. So yeah, I'm very happy. Now my face moves again.
Well, and with all these changes that you've had taken place, just kind of releasing that old paradigm, how do you physically feel?
Really good. Yeah. So all of this can breathe now.
All of your chest area.
Yeah. And my back doesn't, because I would come up to you all the time and talk to you about being in effect, basically, about my back. Well, that was the issue. And then my singing has come through. My voice has developed even further. And I've been getting more channels and download from spirit as well. Because think about it, that was a distortion. This was a distortion too.
All this congestion. Yeah.
The energy wasn't moving and all that stuff. Yeah. And then the other piece too was the incongruence for me personally was the fact that I talked, because I'm in personal growth and I'm wanting to be in integrity. And it was this underlying thing that I didn't feel like I was fully embodying. And so that was a huge shift too. And then having my energy back, because I don't feel like I have toxins in my body anymore.
Yeah.
So super grateful. It's worth it. Come to the other side. If you do, if you have, breast implants and you're thinking about it, it's really worth it. And if you're not there yet, that's totally fine too. It took me 19 years to figure out that journey. And everybody has their own specific journey, right? My journey is different from anybody's. So
yeah, we all have our own journey. We all have our time and our space and all the different things that I think that we came here to learn so that we can, move on to those other levels, get
100%.
those complete. Yeah.
100%.
So what would you say, because you have traveled this pathway, you train people how to do this, you create extraordinary transformations. I've been to your retreats before. They are phenomenal. What would you tell our listeners on how, what are some of those daily practices that they can begin to take on so that they can start to move that dial? So I always ask all of the people that we interview, give us at least 3 things that people can start to do right off the bat to begin to move the dial. Their health, their wellness. Yeah.
Yeah. Carving out time in the morning and evening ritual. It's a game changer for me, and making sure that you get amazing sleep.
Wow.
And the morning ritual for me is it's setting goals, setting intention, and doing clearing, right? And some of the people on this may have different modalities they can use to clear yourself. And it's constantly doing the work. That's why I call it the great work. I have clients come to me all the time that, I've done all this work. And they think that at some point you're going to come to a point where you don't do any. I'm like, you would have ascended to the next level of where you're going to go. Your spirit would have ascended if you're done. It is a constant privilege to do the work. And so I believe that we come into this planet to know thyself, to realize that we are spirit in the physical form. And part of that is to do daily ritual of writing out goals, journaling, talking to your unconscious mind, maybe possibly talking to the parts of yourself that you would love to heal, having gratitude, setting goals, and then doing the clearing so that you're focused on your intention throughout the day, and then making sure you wrap it up at the end of the day and get those learnings. So every day you're getting a little bit better, and making sure that you get amazing sleep. Sleep is one of the most, and I'm sure you've talked about this before too.
Yeah.
It's one of the invisible enemies of health.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the reason why I was not sleeping is because I had a lot of baggage that was keeping my body out of ease. Right. And then when I cleared the baggage, then I also had issues with my supplementation and all that other stuff that was causing my body to be out of ease. And so getting all that into order, clearing out the baggage mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and then nourishing your physical body so you can sleep well is going to help you to be able to be thriving throughout the day. Those things are some of the most important things. And I know they sound so simple and everybody talks about it. And if you do that every day, you're going to feel 100% better.
Well, that's the thing, right? Everybody talks about it, but the knowledge or just talking about it, it doesn't actually make the difference until you're taking the actions, and then not just once or twice, but being on that in that consistent place where it's like a part of your ritual. Like we all have the ritual of brushing our teeth, I hope.
Yes.
Like I can't imagine like not brushing my teeth in the morning. It needs to be that level of habit, I think, if we're actually going to continue in our transitions in life.
Yeah, and having the ritual of daily clearing. So, a lot of people don't talk about that. Mm-hmm. Daily clearing, that you're actually doing the transformation and getting the learning from the rumination, or if you had something that didn't really go your way that day, making sure that you're learning every single day of all the things that you experience in your life. And that way, if you've done the work, you're not stacking more baggage on. You're taking out the garbage every day.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're not sleeping if you don't, right?
Yeah, exactly. And people think that you just allow the garbage to stack back up. I'm like, no, you took it out. We cleared it out. But make sure you take it out every Thursday, because otherwise it'll start piling up again.
Like my kids. I'm like, do the dishes. And my son's like, but I did them yesterday, Mom. And I'm like, but they have to keep on being done.
It's not like they're going to do themselves.
You did it yesterday. You got to do it today now also.
Right. Yeah.
So that consistency is really important. Well, I think this has been amazing. Are there any other words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us? And then I do want you to share with us about your NLP Made Simple program, because it's such an awesome foundational place for people to kind of start to dive into these things.
Yeah. So if you are a beautiful woman that is struggling with perfectionism, that was one of the biggest challenges that I struggled with. Food for thought. So the word perfectionism comes from a Greek word. I think it's teleothesis or teleosis. Look it up. It's close to that. And basically what it means is spiritual wholeness and completeness. It also means maturity. And that, from my perspective, presupposes you go out there and you mess up a lot. Yeah. And so I believe that you're perfectly imperfect right now, just the way you are. And one of the things that we believe in the esoteric or mysticism world is that you came down here to do the great work of becoming holy in perfection, which means complete.
Yes.
Which presupposes you get on the path and you go F things up and you make mistakes, you fall on your face and you learn from it. And so if you come from a playful place from that, and encourage your little self to go out there and make mistakes, learn from it, and grow each day. Over time, you will actually embody worthiness. And it's so funny because you are worthy already right now.
Yeah.
However, the paradox is you won't actually know it and believe it until you go and make yourself fail over and over again and realize that you are worthy.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. And this is something that I've learned over time. So
beautiful.
I invite you to go and have some fun and make mistakes and learn from it and know that you're beautiful and worthy right now, no matter what you do.
Yeah. I love that. Those are perfect words. Tell us a little bit about how people can learn more about your work, how they can learn about NLP Made Simple.
Yes. So NLP Made Simple is a beautiful online course that you can take from the comfort of your own home. And it's really fun because it has taken all these concepts and made it super, super simple and bite-sized that anybody can learn and they can be successful. And we take you through a process of learning NLP, using it in your life so that you can communicate better. You can change some of those itty bitty shitty committees into advocates for yourself. You can work on behaviors or patterns that are no longer serving you. We even have stuff around food addiction inside of that course that gives you control and power over food. We've had people lose 40 pounds just by watching and doing the exercises. It's a breakthrough course using NLP.
So tell us a little bit about where we can find more about the NLP Made Simple course.
Yes, so you can find it at www.nlpmadesimple.com and go ahead and check it out. And like I said, for anybody that wants to take that journey with us, we're bonusing in a one-on-one coaching session with one of our coaches to then take you through some of the breakthrough work one-on-one as well.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It was an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for the work that you do, the difference that you make in people's lives, and the difference that you've made in my life. And I know I am truly blessed and grateful that our paths have crossed. And so I encourage you all, check out the NLP Made Simple course. It is a really great way to start to transform some of these conversations that are getting in the way of having the life that you love. So with that, everyone, I look forward to seeing you all for our next episode of True Wellness with Dr. D. This is Dr. D reminding you to tune into your body, connect with what matters, and embrace the journey to true wellness. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to redefine their health. Be sure to grab a copy of the True Wellness checklist right in the show notes. Let's keep redefining wellness and empowering change together. See you for the next episode.